I've spoken about this subject many times before, but we're going to talk about it again because I found this game lying around in the vault and I thought it was probably worth showing you. We're on two brothers playing the Henri IV legendary tier French cruiser. This is post buff after the DPM was improved, and you'll see some pretty good DPM out of this thing. But you'll also notice that this is a 6v6 game. We're missing 3 ships on either team, and that, of course, is because somebody on one of the teams, hopefully the red team, turned off crossplay. Now, even though you do have the ability to turn off crossplay on your Xbox or PlayStation for World of Warships Legends, there is no valid reason to do it. It's not like somebody on the other console has a distinct advantage over you because they're using an Xbox controller versus a PlayStation one. You could maybe make the case that in first person shooters, like, say, Battlefield 6, you might want to turn off crossplay if you're on console and using a controller, and you're playing against a bunch of people on Steam who are using a keyboard and mouse. There's a case to be made that a mouse is perhaps a little bit better for aiming in first person shooters than an analog stick on a controller, given that those games are a lot about quick reaction times and such. But World of Warships Legends is not about quick reaction times. It's about long term planning and careful positioning over a 15-minute match. And no controller scheme is going to really give you an advantage over another one, except maybe you're at a disadvantage if you're playing mobile. I don't know exactly how the game plays on a phone. I haven't really tried it, so I couldn't say. But on console, if you turn off crossplay, all you're really doing is declaring that you are a hopeless potato who can't hack it in the standard 9v9 format. I suspect most of the reason that people turn off crossplay in the first place is because they see a mission in the weekly Havocs for the campaigns that directs them to do something like be top 4 on the leaderboard at the end of the match. And, well, if you turn off crossplay and you get yourself a 6v6, maybe it's easier for you to get in one of those top 4 places. That's probably the reason why you would turn off crossplay, and I don't accept that as a valid reason. It means you're a potato, and you better hope that if you do turn off crossplay and find yourself in a small match like this, you don't have at least a couple of good players on the enemy team who can really turn the tide. Now, of course, we're over here on the flank of this Two Brothers map with a battleship somewhere behind us, and we've got what is, in my opinion, one of the scariest battleships at Legendary tier pushing in. That would be the Italian Laria. And you can see we've lost quite a bit of HP from a single salvo he sent our way. But he's just pushing in with some sort of blind aggression. Perhaps he's the one who turned off crossplay, I don't know. He's taken a torpedo from us after taking 2 fires and DCPing them, so he's on a perma-flood, and the damage has just counted over 52,000. Now, of course, we were the only ones spotting, but now that he's around that island, the friendly battleship has line of sight on him, at least momentarily. And, well, he's been reduced to almost no HP. Friendly battleship gets a good hit on him. We're spotted by something. I'm surprised he can see us over that island, but there he goes. First blood. And 60,000 damage against him as he pushed in. Enter Brisbane, a very lightly armored cruiser, a Minotaur hull that can't stand up to the AP power pumped out by Henri's AP slinging guns. The French AP, I think, is slept on some of the time. Doesn't have improved pen angles like the Americans, but it maintains excellent pen even at the longer ranges. And while you probably don't need excellent pen to chew through the armor on the Brisbane, we get 1 Citadel and no more there. Couple of overpens, bit unfortunate, but that's what the reload booster is for. The next AP salvo is out, the aim is off, but there's a Citadel. Front guns as well, and Brisbane should be on his way back to port. If our friendly battleship sends him there, I guess. There he goes. That's both of the enemy ships on this flank eliminated instantly as we lose our friendly destroyer on the other side. No doubt sunk by the enemy destroyer, who is only a couple meters away from our base. But it looks like he's about to run face first into a battleship if he chooses to enter it, which is probably not a good idea, given that if he's spotted in that position, literally everybody who's left on my team can shoot at him except me. And what we could do is go back to the friendly base to try to defend against that destroyer, but equally, the path to the red base is open. So we could push into that, get on the cap, and then stop the enemy from accruing points from it, which would necessitate that they respond to our movements. And in any case, the enemy destroyer gets spotted in front of 3, maybe 4 battleships. He goes dark there, but not before the Preußen takes him out. And so the threat to the cap has been eliminated. You could see we were sailing in that direction with a mind of taking care of that DD, but if he gets himself sunk by getting spotted unnecessarily, then he's done our job for us. So we can turn to the enemy base and start heading that way. We don't really have support. Our battleship teammate that joined us on the flank and got some of those good hits against the Laria and the Brisbane certainly provided some help, but he's playing a little bit far back, so he's going to take a while to catch up, particularly since the Henri is such a fast cruiser and can go at something like 37 knots even without the engine boost active. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, the friendly battleships take out another battleship, and that leaves only 2 left. We can see one spotted on the opposite flank, and then the last known position of the other one was right inside of this red cap. We're only at 83,000 damage, and this is a little bit of a blowout, which normally I don't like showing, but I feel it's important, especially if we imagine that whoever turned off crossplay is on the red team and getting the justice they so richly deserve for trying to ruin the match for everybody else by forcing people to cater to their skill issues. Sorry if I sound harsh, I just really have no tolerance for people turning off crossplay. If you need to get number 1 on the leaderboard or number 1 through 4, get good. Don't turn off the crossplay to facilitate smaller matches so that you can artificially boost your score because you have less ships to deal with. In any case, it doesn't look like the last battleship that hasn't really been spotted for a while is in his last known location. And there's a lot of islands here around this cap on Two Brothers, so maybe somebody's hiding somewhere. Maybe that guy is turned around. Maybe he's going to do the center push, as people love to do on this map. Who knows? But we are entering the red base, and we're able to cap it with no opposition. Nobody's contesting it, so we do know for sure that there is no battleship in this cap. Not much of a surprise, there's not too many places they could be hiding, but there's one of them, the Njord, at full HP, and that is basically a gift from our Jesus. The Njord guns can probably not do too much to the Henri if we're angled, but you know what can? Is the Preußen with its 457mm guns that can overmatch the Henri's armor scheme pretty much everywhere. So we're in a terrible position now. We're stuck bow into this Preußen with no avenues for escape. Not exactly, generally speaking, where you'll want to be in a cruiser. You don't want to be in a situation where you're stuck bow into something that has the guns to overmatch your armor scheme everywhere, because eventually, if you want to survive the encounter, you're probably going to have to turn away and kite. And if you do that, you're going to expose broadside to the battleship guns, which is a recipe for disaster. Of course, we're committed here. We really can't turn away, so we're just going to see what can we do with the Henri before the Preußen inevitably takes us down with his perfectly balanced reload on those 457mm guns. Couple fires there against, I think, both the Njord and Preußen. We've got some torpedoes in the water as well, but, you know, this Preußen reloads very quickly. His secondaries are even shooting at us. I assume Njords probably will soon here too. And, well, those secondaries can melt us if they do hit. That's to say nothing of the main battery guns, so we're nearly toast. But maybe, just maybe, since the Njord has beached himself on that rock over there, maybe we can put some torpedoes in the water and hit him. Note, though, that we didn't really aim the torpedoes properly. If we had swung the indicator a little bit over to the right, knowing that the Njord is going to reverse, then perhaps these torpedoes would have made contact, but it turns out he's fast enough in reverse that he's able to avoid the torpedoes, but even after our demise, the effects of our damage over time still continue to be felt by, I believe, both of these battleships. Both of them are on fire, courtesy of us, And so much burning has occurred that we achieved the Witherer medal along with the high caliber to go with the First Blood. And now, because these battleships have sort of stayed in this position and the blue team is spread out, they're caught in a hopeless crossfire between our remaining teammates. Preußen continues to burn from our fire. However, I don't think we're going to get the kill on him. That's okay though. Teammates take him out. We get a second fist, double fist now to go along with the first. And the fire eventually spends itself on the Njord, who is broadside to that battleship over there and is not long for this world. So, unfortunately, I think it's probably more than 30 seconds since our damage was affecting the Njord, and therefore we won't get a third fist to go along with our one kill and double fist so far. But we will win the battle. And this just goes to show you, don't turn off crossplay. If you were a member of the red team who turned it off, I don't know what you really accomplished here, because just me and that battleship on the flank chewing through the Loria and the Brisbane quite easily, and then the mistakes of the enemy destroyer, the Jutland, for pushing in too aggressively toward the cap, that was all it took to turn the tide of the battle. If this were a 9v9 and those three ships had played the same, might have been a closer game with less of an obvious outcome. Who knows? But the bottom line here is don't turn off crossplay unless you want people to think you are a hopeless potato. Sorry if this offends anyone, but then again, not really. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.